Hey everybody, this is Big Papa Booty back with my 2001 GMC Yukon, and I'm changed the front brakes. And I just started the Stanley Cup playoffs with the Kraken, so I'm going to try to finish the brakes by the time the game's over. Okay, so we've obviously removed the hubcap, the lug nuts in the tire, chalked the rear tires, put the parking brake on because there's no parking brake in the front on these. So we're all safe. I also put a jack stand underneath the axle just in case. But all we have to do now is we need to use these special T sockets. You can get them in like O'Reilly or whatever. We use a T55 on this one. And what we're going to do is, first off, you want to loosen. Some people remove these, but you at least need to loosen these bolts. There's one here and there's one underneath, because once we remove the caliper, it's really hard to get leverage because those are usually Loctited on. So just make sure you loosen those up so we could remove them later. And then we're going to take a screwdriver and we're going to go in and we're going to loosen up the brake pads and the caliper, so where we can easily move the hub off as soon as the main caliper bolts. There's one here and there's one underneath. As soon as we remove those, then the whole caliper comes off. All right, so update: Kraken and Avalanche are done with period 1. It's 0-0, and we are about to remove the caliper main bolts. The one located here and one located under there. These things are extremely hard to remove if you don't have an impact gun, and it's really hard to get an impact gun in there. And so I kind of had a little idea, and what I did was I got a nice small sturdy Craftsman wrench, or I'm sorry, socket set here, and I used my breaker bar, and I'll put a breaker bar in right in there, but be careful. You don't want to dent your gas shocks and struts and whatever. So then you just make sure that's clear, and then that way you can get some leverage to turn that bolt and break it. That's just one way I've figured it out. So next we're going to remove the caliper, and we're going to put the brake pads on. Go Kraken. Alrighty, so now I went ahead and removed both these bolts already. The lower one is a lot easier if you can just use that same breaker bar, and you get a lot more leverage from underneath. Kraken just started right now, period 2. Let's see if we can get this done. All right, this thing just comes right off like this. And then you can kind of just like set it up as like a work table. Just make sure you don't kink or hurt the hose on the backside. Because next what we're going to do is we're going to remove these bolts, the first ones that we use the T55 on, and we're going to pull these bolts out and we're going to remove the caliper. It's really simple. The brake pads just fall right out as soon as this bolt's done. So I'll give you an update in a few minutes. Hopefully it'll be Kraken 1 and Avalanche 0. All right, so this is where we are at right now. I basically took it off, flipped it out over. I found a good spot to work on it with. And as you can see, as soon as you pull this off, you can pull each of the shoe pads off really simply. But we are going to listen to the Kraken here for a second. 2 minutes into the second. All right, let's see what we can do. All right, so now we've removed the old brake shoes here, pads, whatever, and I pulled the top of the caliper off, and I'm starting the compression process because we have to compress the cylinders back so there's room to go over the with the new thickness of the new pads. So I'm just using a regular vice grip. You can get these Harbor Freight, places like that. And then I just apply a little bit of pressure to it, and then I let it sit for a few minutes, and then I open it up, apply a little bit more pressure, close it for a little bit as I'm doing the rest, and then because you don't want to rush that because you can damage the cylinders, and you want all the fluid to go back up into the reservoir and give it time. So now down here, as you can see, once you remove this part, these things just slide out. Like, that's it. There's nothing really holding them in. And then we just take the new ones, and we're going to make sure we put, you have to pay attention to where the caliper head sits on the rotor. In this case, this is the lower one. So what you want to do is make sure when you put your pads in, you want your wear bar right there to be on the bottom side, so that if and when your brakes wear down, it doesn't push it into the brake pad, it pulls it away. That's kind of important because it'll give you a little more life out of your pads. Also, another trick that I do is sometimes when you get them from the factory, like right here, that's got to be like 1/8 of an inch they're giving me on my wear bar. So I just take a screwdriver and I bend that down just enough to where it's right above the ridge, because the last time I changed the brakes, which was a few years ago, that's how much I still had on them when it started hitting the wear bar. And whoever had installed it incorrectly. They put it in like this, and so it started pushing the wear bar down, and it broke the shoe. So that's one reason why it's really important that you have that on the bottom side. So we're just going to reassemble this. We're going to put in new, these are silencing plates. These are really important because they keep your brakes from squeaking, and they help them vibrate and cool down. So we're going to replace them exactly where the ones were on the old one. Alrighty, sorry I had to switch phones. My other one's running out of battery. So update on the Kraken game. Number 52 just scored his first goal with the Kraken. So we're up Seattle 2, Avalanche 1. And as you can see, I finished installing the brake pads in their proper position with the new clips and the sound guards. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the screws, bolts that go in there. They're lightly greased by the factory, and so I'm going to apply a new grease on there. I usually use a marine grade waterproof grease, but you don't need a lot. Just a little update since those brakes haven't been done probably 20 years. Anyway, so we're going to install it all, and I'm going to finish decompressing my cylinders here in the next 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll apply it and put in the bolts and be done. All right, we got 2 minutes to go in the second. I've taken the little brake pad kit from the face of the caliper, and I flipped it upside down, put it back exactly where I got it from, and I made sure it's got enough clearance to go over the rotors. Now the rotors, you want to make sure are in decent condition. You shouldn't feel anything with your fingernail if you rub it along it. If you find any pits or grooves, that means you might have to have them resurfaced. Also, the total overall thickness is supposed to be 1.2 inches. So if you do a total overall thickness and like maybe one side's thinner than the other, I would just replace the rotors. They're like $65 for these at O'Reilly's. And if you're already doing this brake job, you might as well replace them. So we're just going to flip this over and reinstall the bolts and put the tire back on, and we're going to test it. All right, so we're back. We've taken the caliper, put it back in place. We've got the bolts in place, and then we're going to get ready to torque them down. It's, believe it or not, it's like 120 pounds of torque that you need on these main bolts. The smaller ones, I don't know the exact torque. I think it's a lot less, like 50 or something, because there's, but you have to look it up. I don't remember. Anyways, but yeah, just all I have to do is I'm going to torque those down and put the wheel back on and go Kraken. It's second intermission. We got 20 minutes to go, up 2-1. There we go, Ty Kirchie, number 52. Going into the Last period here, 20 minutes to go in the Kraken game, and I'm finished with the brake job. So I'll try to put some more videos up if I get some likes. And have a great day. Go Kraken.
They lead the series 3-2, and
the Kraken win! Yeah.